Welcome back, Mountaineers. You're watching the A Game. I'm Shaheem Stafford.
And I'm Abigail Watkins, and we're here to keep you updated on anything and everything App State sports from this past week. This week, we'll update you on players who were recognized by the Sun Belt, a schedule release for fall of 2021, tournaments that App State participated in, and recaps as the spring of 2021 season continues for all of our App State teams. All this and more coming to you now.
With the highly anticipated football season drawing near, the Appalachian State football team has now released their schedule for the 2021 season. The 12-game season will kick off with an away game on Thursday, September 2nd against ECU in the Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, and will end at home against the longtime rivals Georgia Southern right here in Boone. The Mountaineers will have two out-of-conference games next season against Elon University and a rematch against Marshall, who App lost last season 17-7. The games will be on consecutive weekends on September 18th and 25th. Both being played at The Rock. This will be head coach Sean Clark's second year in charge as he led the Mountaineers to a 9-3 season in their sixth bowl game appearance last year in his first season as head coach. App State has already finished their recruiting for the upcoming season, having the 62nd best recruiting class nationally with 22 new signees and a rating of 83.8. The team has also brought in a new coaching staff, David Lockwood as safeties coach, Rod West as the cornerback coach, and Frank Ponce as the offensive coordinator. All of this is sure to bring the Mountaineers a successful 2021 and hopefully another Sun Belt championship.
In basketball news, the Mountaineer women's basketball team advanced all the way to the Sun Belt Championship tournament. The team won games against schools like Louisiana Monroe and the University of Tennessee at Arlington, before losing to top-seeded Troy Trojans in the semifinals. In their first round game of the Sun Belt tournament, the women's team played the University of Louisiana Monroe, beating them 70-60 to advance to the quarterfinals. App started the game quickly, knowing that they couldn't give up a lead early on. Three-pointers by Bree Stanley, Michaela Porter, and a layup by Lainey Gosnell gave the Mountaineers the first 10 points of the game and an early lead over the Warhawks. The Mountaineers kept their pressure up and held strong against ULM to hold their lead throughout the first, never letting them get within 4 points of the rest of the quarter, and giving App a 9-point lead going into the second. The Mountaineers only extended their lead in the second quarter, not letting up on ULM at all. A three by Tiara Wilson gave App a double-digit lead over the Warhawks that reached up to 20 points and never went below 10. The pressure by App started to affect ULM as they went without a basket for almost 2 minutes from the 7 to 5 minute mark and the 4 to 2 minute mark. The Mountaineers kept their heads in the game and finished the half strong with a 40-24 lead.
Coming out for the second half, the Mountaineers continued to dominate the Warhawks, holding their double-digit lead most of the third. ULM was able to start chipping away at App's lead, but still couldn't completely shut down the Mountaineer offense, making it hard for them to close the gap. With a minute and 57 seconds left on the clock, the Warhawks brought the lead within single digits for the first time in the third, but could only score a single free throw, letting App hold the lead going into the final 10 minutes of play. Not wanting to give up their lead, App turned on the Jets in the final 10 minutes, quickly scoring the first 7 points of the quarter to bring their lead back to double digits. ULM couldn't keep up, and with the quarter already halfway over, the Mountaineers extended their already hefty lead with a 9-0 run for a 24-point lead. In a last-ditch effort, the Warhawks shut down App for the rest of the game, not giving up a single basket to the Mountaineers and doing their best to come back. In the end, the gap was too large, and the Mountaineers finished off ULM 70-60 for a first-round win. The dub wouldn't have been possible without top scorers Michaela Porter and Lainey Gosnell, who each had 14 points, Faith Austin with 13, and Tiara Wilson, who came off the bench for 11 points.
In the quarterfinals, the team played the University of Tennessee at Arlington, beating the Mavericks 54-46 to earn a ticket to the semifinals. The beginning of the game started out tight, with UTA taking the first couple baskets, but the Mountaineers were able to stay close and keep the score within a single basket. For the entirety of the first quarter, both teams stayed close, with App holding the lead for the majority, but never being able to open up more than a 5-point gap. The first quarter ended with the Mountaineers leading by 1 after 10 minutes of play, and neither team giving the other any room. The second quarter stayed close, but with both teams stepping up their defense, it made it hard for either team to score. After over 2 minutes, the Mavericks took the first basket and the lead. They held the lead for the rest of the quarter, but only held it by 3 baskets. At the end of the half, the outstanding defense, App was only able to score 4 points and Arlington 11, giving UTA a 25-19 lead over App.
In the third quarter, App came back against UTA and quickly tied the game before taking the lead for themselves. The game still stayed close, with the Mountaineers going into the final 10 minutes up by a single point. Both teams stepped up their offense in the fourth, leading to the highest scoring quarter of the game. App extended their lead quickly and held it for the rest of the game. The Mountaineers' overall teamwork held the Mavericks down in the fourth and extended the lead to multiple baskets in the last minute. 2 free throws by Priest Stanley finished off UTA and gave App their second win of the tournament.
In the semifinals, the Mountaineers were taken down by the top-seeded Troy Trojans in a 66-63 nail-biter. Troy took the lead right off the bat and scored the first 13 points of the game, leaving the Mountaineers in the dust. App came back and was able to score on the Trojans after 5 minutes of play, giving them a little momentum to close the gap a little. The Trojans held strong and kept their lead throughout the first, ending it at 27-18. The second quarter continued right where the first left off, and Troy kept their lead, but the Mountaineers were starting to whittle it down. After 4 minutes of play, App was able to bring the game to a 1-point difference before tying the game at 33, all with 3.5 minutes remaining. The Mountaineers took their first lead of the game, but couldn't open up a gap of more than 2 before the quarter ended, and Troy had caught up again, leaving the score tied going into the half.
With the score tied, it looked like the game would remain close until the end, but Troy took the lead once again early in the third, holding it at 3 basket difference for the majority of the quarter and not giving App a chance to catch up. With less than 2 minutes left, Troy took advantage of an App State foul and a missed shot to extend their lead to 10 with 10 left on the play. In the final quarter, the Trojans outplayed App and held their lead for its entirety. App wasn't able to bring the game to less than a 6-point difference until the last 45 seconds, when a 3 by Michaela Porter gave App a little bit of hope before Troy finished off the Mountaineers. This finished the women's basketball season, but even with cancellations, postponements, and COVID-19, they still managed to play 27 games, holding a winning 15-12 record and making it to the Sun Belt Championship semifinals.
With their 2-0 series win against Georgia Southern to end their regular season last week, basketball senior forward Lainey Gosnell was named the Sun Belt Player of the Week. Gosnell has had the best 2-game stretch of her career against the Eagles, leading the Mountaineers in points both nights with 18 in the first game and a season-high 23 in the second. Over the course of the weekend, she averaged 20.5 points per game and 9.5 rebounds, with 10 of her 19 rebounds being on offense. Gosnell has started in all 24 games that the Mountaineers have played and leads the team in multiple categories from minutes played with a total of 743 minutes and an average of 31 per game, to scoring with 299 and an average of 21 per game, to rebounds with 176 with an average of 7.1 per game. In the regular season alone, she has played 6 games where she achieved double-doubles, with her most recent being in the season closer. This is the first time in her career receiving the honor of Player of the Week and the Mountaineers' 3rd Player of the Week award. The only schools in the conference to achieve this are App State, Georgia Southern, and Troy. And when we come back, we will take a look at how the men's basketball team performed in their Sun Belt tournament.
The men's basketball team also competed in the Sun Belt Championship tournament this weekend, making it to the finals, winning against schools like Little Rock, Texas State, and Coastal Carolina. In the first round, the Mountaineers played against the Little Rock Trojans, beating them 67-60 to advance to the quarterfinals. In the first half, the Mountaineers found themselves trailing behind the Trojans for the first 5 minutes of play before a three by Adrian Delph tied the game. From there, the game entered a stalemate where both teams traded point for point with each other, never being able to lead by more than 3. With 6 minutes left in the half, App broke away and took the largest lead of the half of 7 points. The Trojans didn't like that and came back to close the gap with 1 before the end of the half, ending the first 15 minutes of play 30-29 in the Mountaineers' favor.
In the second half, the Mountaineers played throughout with a level head and solid teamwork that helped them hold their small lead. The team was able to block shots, make baskets, and capitalize on the Trojans' weaknesses to slowly build their 1-point lead up and hold it for the entirety of the second half. With over 5 minutes taken off the clock, App started to build up their lead more and was able to bring it up to 10 with a little over 5 minutes left. The Trojans tried to come back, but could never get a leg up on the Mountaineers and ended up finishing the game down by 7 and out of the tournament. The Mountaineers' win could not have been done without the top game scorers Justin Forrest, who tied his season high with a whopping 24 points, Adrian Delph, who drained 14 points and got his hands on 5 rebounds, Michael Almanasi with 13 points, 7 rebounds, and 7 assists, and Donovan Gregory, who added 11 points and 7 rebounds to the Mountaineers' total.
After taking down the Trojans, the Mountaineers advanced to the quarterfinals to play Texas State, taking down the Bobcats in an overtime win 76-73. The start of the game stayed close for the first 10 minutes of play, with both teams playing their hardest, but neither were being able to pull ahead by more than 2 baskets. The team was in a stalemate with Texas holding a couple-point lead over App, but not opening up more than a 5-point margin. With 5 minutes left in the half, the Bobcats went on a 6-0 run to open up a 7-point lead over the Mountaineers, only giving up 3 baskets in the last 3 minutes. Going into halftime, the Bobcats held their lead and sat comfortably ahead by 6.
In the second half, Texas State quickly extended their lead over App to double digits after only a minute, and not dropping down to single digits until 5 minutes in. The Mountaineers weren't going to roll over, though, and went on a 9-2 run for the next 3 minutes to bring the game back within 2 baskets. The game stayed close, and neither team could relax as time continued to wind down. The teams found themselves tied with 3 minutes left, and the Mountaineers took the lead for the first time in the half. App took the opportunity to go on a 10-2 run for the next 2.5 minutes for a 7-point lead with 30 seconds left. Texas still hadn't given up, and in what can be called by a miracle by them, came back to tie the game at the end of the regulation 65-all. Overtime started with both teams coming out strong and trying to take the lead. Neither team was able to pull away, and the game only ended when Justin Forrest defended a rebound before the buzzer to give App the win and a ticket to the semifinals.
In the second overtime win of the tournament, App State defeated the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers in a close 64-61 overtime win. The Chanticleers took an early lead over App, scoring the first 2 baskets of the game. Coastal was able to hold their lead over the Mountaineers, and in a 7-0 run was able to open up a 9-point gap. The Mountaineers continued to play hard, and after the first 15 minutes of play, were able to bring the game back within 2 baskets before the layup by Adrian Delph brought the game to a 1-point difference. From there, Coastal took control of the game, and again, in the final 3 minutes of the quarter, extended their lead from 1 point to 9.
In the second half, the Mountaineers spent the first 7 minutes closing the gap between them and Coastal. With 13 minutes left on the clock, App took a 1-point lead and then scored again to take their biggest lead of the game so far at 7 points. Coastal came back and with just under 8 minutes tied the game once more at 42 apiece, where a stalemate began between the teams. Neither was able to take more than a 1-basket lead as they traded point for point until the end of regulation. The Mountaineers started overtime with a bang, taking the lead right off the bat from a 3 from Adrian Delph. The 3 was just what App needed as they held their lead throughout the overtime, and with 1 second left, a steal from Gregory Donovan ended the tournament for Coastal Carolina and giving App a ticket to the championship game. Due to the lateness of the championship game, we will be updating our viewers on the game in our episode next week. We apologize for the inconvenience.
Even with the season just having started, the Appalachian State field hockey team was picked to finish tied for 4th overall in the Mid-American Conference preseason poll. The Mountaineers received 24 votes to receive this spot, the same amount as Ohio to take 4th, right behind Longwood University at 3rd and Ball State at 6th. App finished their 2019 regular season 11-9 overall and 1-5 in the conference play. In the postseason Mid-American Conference tournament, they finished in the semifinals after beating Central Michigan in a 2-0 shutout and Ohio in a 5-4 overtime win. This season, the Mountaineers are 0-1 after their first game against Davidson, which ended 4-2 in favor of the Wildcats. This season, App will be looking forward towards senior midfielder defender Annette Harroz and senior midfielder Relay Van Hertum, who are both 2019 All-MAC first-team honorees. Hertum led the team last year in points with 18 off of 7 goals and 4 assists, and Harroz led the team in minutes played at over 1,000. Senior midfielder Frederick Stegen, a 2019 All-MAC second-team member, will also be leading the team this season as they fight for a conference championship. The Mountaineers had this week off, but will be playing 2 games against Ball State this weekend.
After a week-and-a-half break, the women's tennis team was back in action this weekend with 3 matches against Elon, Georgia State, and Georgia Southern. In their game against Elon, the Mountaineers fell just short of the Phoenix in a close 4-3 decision. App was able to take the doubles point away from Elon after courts 1 and 2 were won by App, with the Mariah Zacharias-Shania Alashina pair winning their set 6-4, and the Helena Figueres-Sandra Anglezo pair winning with a tiebreak set of 7-6 with an 8-6 set to win the doubles point. In singles, the Mountaineers were only able to take away 2 matches from Elon. Shania Alashina won singles 2 and 3 sets, and Helena Figueres taking singles 4 and 2 straight, giving App their last 2 points. Elon took the lead in the match after winning single set 1, 3, 5, and 6 to improve their record to 8-2 and stay undefeated on their home courts.
In that match against Georgia State, the Mountaineers broke their 4-game losing streak by putting the Panthers in their place and taking them down in a 4-3 victory. In the double matches, Georgia State took the lead by winning courts 2 and 3 and leaving court 1 unfinished, beating both the Helena Figueres, Sandra Ingleso, and the Virginia Pogge Perry Tempest pair 6-3. The Mountaineers came back on the singles course through all 4 of their wins coming from 2-set sweeps against the Panthers. Mariah Zacharias finished her match with a tiebreaker in the first set and 6-4 in her second. Helena Figueres taking her sets 6-2 and 6-3 respectively. Sandra Ingleso finishing her first in a tiebreaker in her second 6-2, and Virginia Pogge winning her sets 6-4 and 7-5. The team is now 2-0 against the Panthers since their 2018, not falling to them since 2017.
After winning against Georgia State, the Mountaineers were ready to continue their hot streak against Georgia Southern. The team came out strong and defeated the Eagles in a 4-0 shutout where courts 4 and 5 didn't finish due to the score. The Mountaineers were able to take the doubles point after the Mariah Zacharias-Shania Alashina pair took doubles court 1 in a 7-5 win, and the Helena Johnson-Sandra Anglezo pair winning 6-3 for App's first point. The doubles matches went by so fast you'd miss them if you blinked. Doubles court 2 finished the first with Shania Alashina taking out her opponent in 2 sets, 6-2 and 6-1. Next finished Helena Johnson, who won court 2 with a 2-set 6-2 and a 6-4 win for App's third point. Finally, Mariah Zacharias took court 1 in the only 3-set match of the day, winning 2 tie-break sets, 7-6 and 7-5, giving App the final point of the day to end the meet early in favor of the Mountaineers. The team is now 3-5 overall and 2-0 in conference play and will be spending next week off the mountain and will play 2 matches in a round robin against 3-5 Troy and 6-4 South Alabama. After the break, we will update you on how the baseball and softball teams played in their games last week.
This weekend, the Mountaineers softball team traveled down the mountains twice for a 2-2 game series against North Carolina A&T and North Carolina Central, beating the Aggies in both games in a stellar performance for the App State softball team. The Mountaineers beat North Carolina A&T in their first game in just 5 innings, 15-1. In the first inning, App took an early lead when a wild pitch thrown by the Aggies gave Bailey Morton the chance to run home and score the first point of the game. App only extended their lead in the second when a double by Megan Calandra brought in Kaylee Kiefer and Mary Pierce Barnes. A single by Emily Jones brought in Megan Calandra, and another wild pitch brought in Carrie White for a 5-0 App State lead. In the extra long fourth inning, App absolutely dominated the plate and scored another 9 runs on the Aggies. 2 singles, 2 walks with bases loaded, and 2 North Carolina A&T errors brought in by 9 App State runners for a 14-0 lead for App. The Aggies' only run came off a single in the fourth after the starting pitcher Kenzie Longenegger was retrieved by Taylor Nichols. The final nail in the coffin came during the 5th inning when the game ground out Addison Jones brought in Allie Sewell for App's 15 run. After the Aggies failed to score in the 5th, the game was called and the Mountaineers had their first win of the weekend.
In their second game against North Carolina A&T, App State defeated the Aggies again, this time 8-4 for a sweep of the weekend. The game started slower with neither team being able to get more than 1 runner on base in the first inning, but once the second started, App was warmed up and ready to play. In the second, App was able to score the first 2 runs off of the game and take the lead off of a flyout by Sydney Russell that gave Mary Pierce Barnes time to run home and a single by Emily Parrott that brought in Gabby Barato, who was on third. The Aggies were only able to score a single run in the second, giving App the lead going into the third. The Mountaineers only extended their lead from there, scoring another run off of a triple by Kate Houston to bring in Emily Jones while pitcher Sydney Holland shut down the North Carolina A&T's batters in the bottom of the inning. In a long fourth for both teams, App State scored 4 more runs off of a double from Emily Parrott to bring in Sydney Russell, a bunt by Carrie White that gave Emily Parrott time to get home on the throw, and 2 RBI doubles by Kate Houston that brought in Emily Jones and Carrie White, while the Aggies were able to take 3 hits and 3 runs. In the 5th inning, the Mountaineers finished the game with a run off of the Aggies' error for the last run of the game. Neither team was able to score again in the 6th or 7th, and the Mountaineers improved 8-4 this season.
In that first game against North Carolina Central, the Mountaineers shut out the Eagles 8-0 in their 5-inning game. App took the lead early on in the game when a single by Gabby Barato in the second inning gave Mary Pierce Barnes time to run the third and make it home for the first run of the game. The Mountaineers extended their lead in the 4th and 5th when a single by Carrie White advanced a runner to second and gave Gabby Barato a run, and a flyout by Mary Pierce Barnes brought in Addison Jones for another Mountaineer run. In the 6th, App finished off the Eagles with 5 runs with a base-loaded walk, followed immediately by a grand slam by Kate Houston to get App a 9-0 lead.
In their final game of the weekend, App State finished off North Carolina Central with a second win over the school, this time blowing the Eagles out of the water 17-0 in just 5 innings. Once the team got started, they didn't stop. The Mountaineers started their assault on North Carolina Central in the 3rd inning when 2 good hits from our batters brought in Emma Jones and Emily Parrott for the first 2 points of the game, while another single and 2 poor fielder's choice by the Eagles gave runs to Bailey Morton, Kate Houston, and Mary Pierce Barnes before the inning ended. In the 4th, App scored another 5 runs from Carrie White scoring on the throw to a couple singles to bring in runners sporadically. The inning ended with App up 10-0. In the 5th and final inning before the game was called, the Mountaineers scored another 7 runs off of the Eagles pitcher. 2 singles, a double, and a ground out, and an error by North Carolina Central. Later, App finished the game up by 17 over the Eagles for one heck of an end to the weekend. Freshman pitcher Delaney Buckner earned her first win of the circle after pitching for the full 5 innings of the game, striking out 8 batters and only giving up 2 hits during the game. The team is now 10-4 in overall play and will be traveling to play in 3-game series against South Alabama next week.
The baseball team also had an away series this weekend, traveling to Greenville for a 3-game series against number 17 in the nation, ECU, losing all 3 games. In the first game of the weekend, the Mountaineers couldn't keep up with the nationally ranked team and lost 13-2 against the Pirates. The Mountaineers were able to keep the Pirates at bay for the first 2 innings, where neither team was able to get a run in and even held a 1-point lead in the 3rd inning off of a single from Luke Drumheller to bring in Hayden Cross for the first point of the game. The Pirates were able to take the lead in the 3rd off of 2 hits to score 3 runs before the inning ended. In the 4th inning, App was able to close the gap when Bailey Welch was walked after a hit by pitch with the bases loaded and brought in Robbie Young. Starting pitcher Tyler Tuthill was able to shut down the Pirates in the bottom of the 4th, but gave up a 2-run homer in the 5th before being switched out for Noah Hall in the bottom of the 6th. Hall gave up 1 run in the 6th before being relieved by Ben Peterson, who gave up 1 in the 7th, giving ECU a 7-2 lead. In the 8th, the Pirates finished off App by scoring 6 runs to take a 13-2 lead. The Mountaineers couldn't score against in the 9th and lost their first game of the weekend.
In the 2nd game, App held their own against the Pirates but couldn't take them down and lost 5-2. The Mountaineers had their first lead of the weekend in the 3rd inning when App scored the first run of the game off of a ground out by Luke Drumheller to give Bailey Welch time to run from 3rd to home. Another run came from the same inning for the Mountaineers when a flyout by Philip Cole brought in Andrew Terrell, who was waiting on 3rd. The Mountaineers were able to hold off the lead until the 5th inning when ECU was able to score 3 runs of their own off of 2 home runs from their first 2 batters and a single to bring in a runner on 3rd. In the 7th, the Pirates extended their lead, and in the 8th, they finished the game with 1 final run. The Mountaineers tried their best but couldn't score again in the 9th, ending the game and giving ECU their 2nd win of the weekend.
In their final game against the Pirates, App State fell once more 10-2, failing to take a single game away from ECU. The Mountaineers had trouble getting warmed up on Sunday and even more trouble trying to keep ECU from heating up. App was unable to stop the Pirates and gave up 6 runs in the first 3 innings while remaining scoreless themselves and only getting 1 runner on base. In the 4th, App was finally able to get on board with a single by Kendall McGowan that brought in Philip Cole, who was waiting on 3rd. App was able to hold off the Pirates throughout the 6th and 7th inning, keeping the gap to 5 points. In the 6th inning, Kendall McGowan represented the Mountaineers again with a home run to bring App a little closer to the ECU. The game ended after the Pirates scored 4 more runs in the 6th and 7th to give them their 10th run in the game. The Mountaineers stayed winless throughout the entire weekend, falling to 6-5 in overall play. The team will be traveling to UNCW to play the 7-3 Seahawks next week in a 3-game away series.
That's all we have for you this week, sports fans. I'm Abigail Watkins.
And I'm Shaheem Stafford. Tune in next week to stay up to date on all things Appalachian State sports.